REST servers. So likewise, the counterpart of LightWave Client allows NonStop as a client to go consume the REST services in the outside world. And they, with both products, you have the best of both worlds, allow the NonStop to interoperate with different platforms within enterprise, within the internet. So this is some general features about both LightWave Server and LightWave Client. I want to point out, and we'll go through, I would cover that. So number one, big thing, it runs in Guardian. It does not require OSS, which is a big thing for most NonStop installations. In fact, Mark Wilson and I was talking before, came on the fact is that there are very, very few platform installations that use Java and OSS stuff, a lot of different things there, but it is a lot more difficult for most installations to support that. Performance controlling Java and OS is more difficult, and LightWave does not have that problem. It does not require an OSS, runs in Guardian, and is fault tolerant, has all the fundamentals within the NonStop world. This is very, very important, performance monitoring. This is really not monitoring per se, but really is tools that within the product that is fantastic, is allowing you to have visibility of how the product is doing, how your application is doing. And I always advise customers and users that when you look at a product, you should do POC, you can see how it works, but most importantly, you should look at what diagnostic capabilities there is in the product, because no matter how good the product is, one day you're going to run into a problem with an application using the product. So you need to know how quickly can you, that diagnostic tool that product provides you to look inside what the situation is. And that's where LightWave really shines, is the diagnostic log gives you complete visibility of the transactions. The other part is LightWave is everything is within one package. It's easy to use. I'll show you the fact it is a web browser admin. Once you install it, you can click it, it becomes a GUI, and there's almost like zero learning curve, and you can get up to speed pretty quickly, and everything is within the package. It takes advantage all the standard SSL, TLS. It can does all the translation between structured and JSON. So that's the characteristics of both products. But LightWave Server, as the picture depicts, so what it does, you can look at it as a middleman to be able to expose all these different applications on a NonStop to the outside world. And so let's say you have a pathway application, or you have a standalone application. So let me see, someone is okay, sorry about that. I just have to mute. So LightWave Server now allows all these different devices, whether it's mobile, whether it's an application from another platform, web servers, to access the pathway servers. So without modifying any of the application, LightWave Server can make this into a RESTful API in a quick period of time. It's very, very shortly. And I'll show you how quickly that is. That's basically it. It is a module that plugging it in with the GUI, you can be able to expose its application to the outside world. And so what are some of the uses? What people use it for? Let's take a quick look at some of the common ones. First thing is, very, very common thing is, people look at the typical NonStop green screen application, say this system is not good because it's green screen interface. So, but we all know that the real crown jewel of the application is really within the business logic, within the NonStop database itself. So with the rest, with LightWave Server, it allows to be able to take advantage of exposing those business logic to a modern user interface. So that means that you can use a browser, a mobile, use the new technology now, and just give it a new UI to the NonStop applications. And again, this is the important thing I want to point out, is that before this, just like our server object gateway as well as like RSC. That's another one that I did do. All those things are proprietary stuff, and the rest here is LightWave Server REST. It gives you a standard. So that means that you can have your .NET application developer, your mobile developer, don't have to know anything about NonStop, because basically you can just plug and play, say this is how you call the NonStop application using this Swagger. We'll talk about the Swagger, and they can just plug it in. They can make it work. They don't have to know anything about the NonStop. That's the beauty about that, right? So that is a one big use case for LightWave Server, is it allows us to build new UI into the NonStop application easily. Right? Here's another use case for one of the customers, and left side of the diagram here is, instead of just really UI running applications, the other part is you can actually have devices. In this case, it's POS terminals. Then coming in is REST. And so the NonStop can get the application and process it accordingly. And this other part, we'll talk about later using LightWave Client, we can feed into Azure. But again, by using LightWave Server, we are compatible with the modern POS terminals that are using REST. So we do not have to actually write special code and all that to be able to access existing applications. Here's another interesting use case. So we talk about, you have applications for workstation accessing the NonStop. We talk about POS terminals accessing the NonStop. But here's another customer use case. So instead of really a single POS terminal or a workstation access application, here we're actually coming from a portal. So that's a third-party portal, which the user interact with the portal application, and then the portal uses REST to go to NonStop to perform actual business application using LightWave Server. So basically, we are exposing the NonStop service to an outside world portal interoperably. So user will come in here, they will take care of UI, and they will come and look up account, do search, and so forth. So again, we're using LightWave Server and REST immediately. Now we can open up to the whole world of functions from that portal to the outside world and accessing the data on the NonStop seamlessly. Okay, I'm just going to stop for 10, 15 seconds, see if there's any questions before I actually go a little further LightWave Server. Any questions, any comments? Okay. So since we are all technical people here, I thought I'll just quickly go through as far as what the product looks like. So underneath the cover, so you have the LightWave Server as a process here. So this process, called the server, which takes care of the admin interface as well as actual work. So let's see, as far as what the admin interface looks like, the admin interface looks like something like this. It's a web browser. I'll walk this through quickly with you to see what it looks like, to give you a real feel. But you can see that this is the browser, and you can see this on the menu is pretty self-explanatory. You have the dashboard, you have the API, you can sort of look at diagnostic logs, you can specify user and so forth. And this is what a typical screen looks like when you define an API. You can basically say, I'm going to expose a pathway server using into this API to be called by the outside world. So I'm going to walk through the LightWave Server briefly for you. And before I do that, I just want to inject a little, hopefully, humor here. Is the fact is that there are other products out there, a couple other products that claims to perform similar functions like LightWave Server. And one of them basically from a TPC presentation, they said, from legacy to REST in 15 minutes. I can do it in 5 minutes. So I'm going to do that and see what you look like. And we're going to do it in a GUI. So let's see. So this is a LightWave server. I'm actually pointing to the LightWave server on the NonStop. I will log on. And so this is what the console looks like. And if you can see that, even though maybe the first time looking at it, but it's really nice, there's self-explanatory a lot of stuff. These are the process running. These are the environment, the ports, the services, and the file system and so forth. It's very, very easy. So pretty much, if you can install this within 10 minutes, and I can walk you through how to work this in another 10 minutes, and you'll be on your own. So if I want to expose an application to a LightWave, so I go to API, I'm going to create an API. So let's say I have a COBOL server. I have the dictionary for IPM. I want to expose that as API. So I want to add that. So I'm just going to call, let's say my demo. I'll create that. And so part of every API, you specify what operation you want to do. So what path, I'll say this is my demo. This is how you get to there. And then, so what do you want? How do you want to get to it? What method? I'm just going to say I want to do a get because I want to do a inquiry function. And so these are three things that tell me how to get to the application. So what is the pathway server class? Okay, in my case that's my pathmon. What's the server class name? It's DWINVSVR. And since it's a COBOL program, I want to space padded. So done. So this part is done. So the request message, what's the format? So this is the IPM request going to the server and coming back. So it is in the dictionary. Dictionary is in my ditch, which inventory dictionary opens up and it tells me what is underneath it. So that's my request. All right. And I want to put this in the, let's say do a post instead. I'm going to do a post. Now reply, likewise, I'm say that if the application responds back with a 0, you know, COBOL program, when it's good, it's reply 0. So what is the response structure? The response structure is going to be in my response buffer. And I'm going to return a 200. You remember 200, that means it's normal. So I have also have in my code say that in case if it is an error, I want to bring it to the error response buffer, and I'm going to return back a 400. I'll save this. Now my API is done. Now I can just basically promote as a service is done. It can be accessed as a REST web service. But wait, there's something more. I can actually have a built-in tester. I can test it immediately. I can put in the stuff here. So let's see, I think I have some test data. So so this actually has gone through the configuration, go to my pathway server. This is reply back by the server. I can actually test this service before I deploy to the outside world. So not only can I actually enable this thing in 5 minutes, I can actually test, make sure my configuration is correct, and so that I can basically tell people, say, it is ready, so you can run it. So that is basically how quickly it is. And the other thing is that I sort of alluded to that. I don't have time to go through all the characteristics of the LightWave server, but I do want to point out the diagnostic lock, which is the key thing. So diagnostic lock, when I turn on, tells me everything about the transaction. So let's do the simple things first. It tells me what comes in and what goes back out. So if there is a problem with the data coming in, which caused the error, instead of arguing with the Windows developer, you say, hey, You sent me the wrong thing. You said you thought you sent me XYZ, you sent me this. That's why I'm telling you dealer not found and all that. So that's number one. Number two is sometimes people say, well, you're taking a long time in processing this stuff. The tandem is really slow. They say, no, because actually, like we give you action or the breakdown of the actual throughput, the response time. So this tells me actually this thing was done in 2 milliseconds. So I don't know what you're talking about. It actually breaks it down how long it takes to connect, how it takes to change, to serialize, deserialize. And you can always see that the server is actually the amount of time it takes in a COBOL server. So this is fantastic. It shows you the whole trip. So when there is any issue with the application, you don't have to worry about it. Basically, it tells you everything that's going on. So these are some of the features which makes LightWave unique. You can get things done really quickly, and diagnostic tools allow you to take a look at what the problems are. So another thing LightWave Server I want to point out is also a really key part is scalability. So we have this server not only takes care of the admin interface, it can also actually do the real work, but optionally, LightWave Server allows you to create additional worker bees. So you can run things in parallel as many copies you want to. So what happened is, if you have a server, it does all the work by itself. You can say, I want to create additional sub-workers, and each one of this will tell service, I'm available for work. So whenever a connection comes in, the service says, okay, I'll give it to you. So you can finish this work. So you can actually have tens, hundreds, as many workers as you want to for the processing, right? So, and one of our clients was on this call recently do 130 workers as workers on the system, and we're achieving like 250 to 300 transactions messages per second using LightWave Server. So that's how scalable it is. So anyway, so that's LightWave Server. So again, LightWave Server exposed NonStop application to become a RESTful API service. Is easy to set up. GUI admin make it easy to administer, to build, and you don't have to create any, you do not have to do anything to the code. Basically, automatically make it into a a RESTful API. Any questions, comments? Okay. So next part is the client. Again, same thing, a lot of features the same, meaning the fact the benefits of the LightWave Server, LightWave Client share a common set of features. LightWave Client, some of the additional stuff we'll talk about, but again, now we're the flip side of the diagram. So we have actually want to be able to consume external RESTful services. And this allows your application to go through LightWave Client to consume the service. From a architecture level, from a usage case level, I'm more excited even about client, even more than LightWave Server. Why? Because that allows the NonStop system now to take advantage of all the different services out there in the enterprise as well as in the internet. So instead of writing things, I can actually interoperate with them. So let's take a look at some of the use case customer examples that we work with, and you'll be able to use them to work with the business portals. For example, these are some of what our customers have used LightWave Client to work with. So they work with a bond loyalty program, which is a coupon. So basically a coupon code for discounts. This is a fleet management. John Deere, we all know what John Deere is a heavy equipment dealer, and they're very heavy into RESTful API. And so one of the things, for example, we just used LightWave Client to exchange information with John Deere, say, here's our daily inventory, here's what's happening, and so forth, right? So if you are not using LightWave Client, you have to write your own thing, it becomes a lot more inefficient, and it basically is be a lot more difficult to make it happen. So that's an example of B2B, talking to partner. Here's another thing is that services out there, these are service available as software as a service, SaaS, and one of them, these are different examples, but one of the common things is CyberSource. I think probably some, if not all of you know about CyberSource, is credit card authorization. So again, with LightWave Client, the application can say, hey, I have this credit card number here. I want to be able to authenticate it. Boom. Basically, it is a simple IPM to LightWave Client and go CyberSource and get it validated. Another thing, right, is IT management. So I'm sure that all of you know about like the ServiceNow and Remedy. Those are ticketing system, right? So the idea is now you can tick from the event from the NonStop. You can say generate a ticket in ServiceNow, generate ticket in Remedy, or you can look up information there. So for example, I think that the Zypro has a plugin module for specifically just warning stuff like that into ServiceNow. But what LightWave Client offers is you're not limited by what you can do. You can pretty much use LightWave Client and you can access all the RESTful APIs available in Remedy and ServiceNow, and you can develop yourself without having to go to anyone else. So again, these are just some example I want to share with you as far as why I'm so excited about LightWave Client and the usefulness of that. And final example is Salesforce. Everyone wants to use Salesforce these days. Again, LightWave Client in one of our use case customer, use LightWave Client, and you can use the RESTful API within Salesforce. You can say, I want to update account information. I want to update inventory information. You can do that very easily. You can write the program in COBOL on a NonStop. Just go to LightWave Client. You can write in any language on the NonStop. So before I go about that, any questions, any comments? Okay. So the LightWave Server and LightWave Client, the architecture is similar, but there's some slight differences, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So this diagram here, you can see that first thing is we want to have an application program to access a remote REST service. So that means that we would need this third-party REST service to give us information how we can access that. What information? Like for example, like we need to know, well, what is the URL? What is the IP address? What's the port number? What's the name of the methods? What does the request looks like? What is inside? What's the validation? So all this information needs to be fed into us. And in the REST world, that's to call a Swagger. And we'll talk in the next slide. But basically, what I'll go through this here briefly is that with LightWave Client, there are the design time, which means the fact is that we'll take the information that the remote web service provider give us, and we'll use LightWave console to create necessary the DDL for application to use. For example, if let's say the request is you have to put in account number and you get back account detail. So that type of structure, so LightWave would take that information, generate a DDL, put in so that your COBOL program can know how to communicate with LightWave, and then during runtime, the LightWave will know, say, oh, when it comes in with account information, I will translate into JSON, send it to this using REST. When it comes back, I would say that's called serialization. Serialization is taking fixed structure, put in the JSON on the line, on the wire, and then when the data comes back with JSON, HTTP, it deserializes it and send it back. So design time is when you use LightWave to take this information to create things that your program needs. Runtime is when you put this into a pathway environment to allows it to communicate with the client application. So next, I'm going to talk about, so what information do we need from this third-party web service in order for us to communicate with that? And so first thing is this thing called Swagger. Swagger is a standard. It is a file that defines the web service you're providing. So who provides that? So in this picture here, this is the guy that provides it. So the Swagger file is a file. Usually it's a JSON file. Sometimes it could be a YAML file, and it provides things like URL, what operation, authorize, all the stuff. It's like a blueprint. So instead of answering question by question, you basically give people say, here's the blueprint, just use it, go away, don't bother me. And so this is an example of what a Swagger file looks like. You can see that you can sort of understand what it is doing. So I just highlight things like the JSON, I'm sorry, the Swagger file. So this is the URL, how you can access my web service. And by the way, when you come in here, this URL, say /path, /inventory, that's how you get to this program. And this is using the post method. This is how you do the payload. All this, if you were to take this in the Windows program, you plug this in the Visual Studio when it works. In the case of NonStop, you plug this into LightWave Client console. LightWave Client will do all the work for you. That's the nice thing about LightWave Client, right? So, so let me just show you quickly. So this is LightWave Server. We talked about, you saw it before. We're going to look at LightWave Client. You can see the similar type of nice GUI console stuff. And so the difference is, of course, you can see that there are fewer things here. And so I'm going to build an API now. So how do I do that? So if I have a Swagger, I can just click this and import that. So if there's a URL, I can point to it. If not, I can just paste what the Swagger looks like. And I have a Swagger. Let's see what I think so I have the Swagger here. I'm going to copy it, paste it. I just did it. I just basically, what LightWave Client did was take the information in the Swagger. It defined all the layout associated with that particular service. So that's because, so the Swagger already give us all that information. So I'm going to save this. Now, how do I now take this and generate the stuff that the COBOL program needs? Again, it's as easy as this. You say export DDL. You can export the inscribed file, local file. So usually, when I'm doing development, I like to do it in locally just to can see something quickly. So I just save it locally. And if I open the file, so this should look familiar to you folks because this is basically DDL source. So this is the representation of what your COBOL program need to do to access that service. In this particular case, you can see, you can sort of read, say, okay, we have this is the payload, and we have a request and response definition. This is what it looks like. You take this, you run through a DDL compiler to generate the COBOL copybook. So let's go back to, so this is, so I just generated DDL. You compile this in the COBOL copybook, and you source it in, and you write your program. So that's what that looks like. And let's see. Likewise, LightWave Client also has diagnostic log. It shows you what is going on between the NonStop and the outside world. So basically, it will be doing the diagnostic information between the NonStop and the third-party web services. You can see some commonality, right? Again, you can see that it tells you all the breakdown time. So notice again, the response time here, the longest, this is when LightWave Client has to wait for the remote side to come back. So that's the amount of time. The rest of the time, actual processing of a LightWave Client is like milliseconds. So you take a look, it's like 1 millisecond for LightWave Client and 2.25 for everything else. Again, you can see that. You can see what we sent. You can see what they come back with. And we can even record the IPM to the pathway. So everything is there. And that's what's wonderful about the product is during development, the developer can use this to diagnose whatever stuff. Production, that's a problem. You can turn it on. You can select which service to turn it on to isolate it. You do not have to look at everything, just selectively. So that's wonderful. Okay. All right. Any questions, comments? You guys are not asleep, are you? I hope not.
So this is a thin client that you put onto the Tandem Phil that through HTTPS that allows you to talk directly onto the Tandem as a database.
Yeah. So it basically everything is on a Tandem, and it has the product itself include the basic HTML, JavaScript, everything in your term, whatever the thin client stuff that resides on the NonStop, that we can use it to do our admin interface. So now that you brought up thank you for reminding me. In addition to the GUI, which is fantastic, what's also really nice about LightWave is it also has a command line interface that you could use. Why do I think it's important? Because that allows people, if they want to automate stuff using Taco macro, so instead of using GUI, they say, I want to basically use Taco macro, the facility is there. You can just run it through using the command line and compatible with Taco macro stuff. Any other questions, comments?
Oh, I got a quick one for you.
Yeah, Mark.
So what about more sophisticated logic in the post or gets? Like, let's say I need to retry the request. Is that a feature in there? Or is it, how would I go about doing that?
So first thing is, so what Mark is asking is, if for some reason you want retry request, how do you do it? So it doesn't do that. So usually, either you do an application, do that. But having said that, yeah, it's a good leading question because there's new features coming up right now, and it's called the user exits. So the idea is now you can embed your additional logic within the product itself, including retrying, data transformation, all the stuff. So that will be the mechanism in this new feature that allow to do what you are suggesting, Mark, is to be able to retry or take additional paths and so forth.
Yeah, this.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I think you
So
answered it correctly.
Yeah. So Gus, why don't you turn over to you and you can go do your thing.
Well, how can I follow you after this nice presentation? I'm just.
You can say it in Spanish.
I'm not as eloquent. Let me share the screen then. Share. Let me share.
So while
Yeah, are you guys seeing my screen?
Yes, we do. Go ahead.
Okay. No, go ahead, finish.
No, I was going to say that, if anyone has any questions, please prepare for it, and we can answer additional questions after Gus finishes presenting. Please go ahead, Gus.
Yeah, I mean, I can follow you, Phil, but you've explained everything very nice and succinctly. I've been working with NuWave for the last 3-4 years. I've always been working on NonStop. Some of you guys work with me. In this presentation, I'm gonna talk about things I talked about in GTUG, and we're gonna review some slides. But basically, showcasing LightWave use cases. What have some customers done that we're allowed to talk to, because we're not allowed to talk to about some of the customers that are doing Some customers take the software with them, and we don't hear about them ever again. I mean, we know they're using it because they're paying the license, but we don't know what they're doing with it. So going with this, let me go to the next slide. Where is LightWave in the NonStop? Here is a graphic that shows a lot of the stuff, a lot of the software that's available to use on the NonStop that deals with APIs, middleware, communication, transaction communications. And we wanted to show where LightWave sits. So LightWave sits down on the right side, and because it's native, we are talking directly to Guardian. So we are skipping a layer that all of the other all of the other software takes use of, which is OSS. And that gives us an edge for some of our highest volume customers. And they appreciate that. And this also implies that NuWave has invested in porting libraries to Guardian, so to keep them native. And that provides us an edge for some of our development options. So this is where LightWave sits in the NonStop middleware stack, if you want to call it that way. Another slide that pop here. We're celebrating 50 years of what makes NonStop availability superior. At one time, I would like to make a presentation talking about each of all these single items and how they affect. That's going to be, I guess, for something else. Just a reminder that a lot of the things that Phil mentioned is the key facility is the message-based operating system, and everything is a message being sent from one process to another on this loosely coupled architecture. So talking about what some of the clients have done with us. In this case, a use case, a LightWave client enables a pending transaction. A bank approached NuWave to help them develop a new transaction path utilizing existing code. They had a transaction that was not being posted in a timely fashion, and they were being asked to use a REST interface to post this transaction right out of the NonStop. So we work with the client, and we show them how LightWave reuses the DDL libraries. The whole point of us, we don't want to rebuild what you have done. You already have all your stuff working. We just want to provide a new way of using it. So reusing the DDL libraries, and that took the implementation in a couple of weeks. They were happy with the results. Another aspect of this particular case is that we also use LightWave Client to request a token from a token management using Kerberos. Sorry, I got some cough. Using Kerberos under OSS. So that's a nice added bonus on that case. Here's a graphic just kind of representing where everything is. The NonStop server, pathway, you know all these things. And LightWave server sits upon the NonStop, listening to a port and handling all those REST services that you want to export. Here's another use case. LightWave server enables NSP access. A customer in Europe wanted to export certain hardware security modules, Atala, Racal operations to be enabled via REST. This to facilitate adherences to the PSD2, I got that wrong, I didn't fix it. The PSD2 initiatives that are running and that are being pushed in the European Union. And this facilitates, for example, the use of certain cryptographic checks, like checking CVV over REST for certain functions that the banks are exporting under this PSD2 initiatives. And just a simple, they created a pathway. They created a small server that talks directly to the attached network security processes under the NonStop. And this facilitated the use. They don't have to build anything else. Everything is already there for them to use. Any questions so far? If you guys do you have any questions, go ahead and interrupt. Let me see. I have to go this faster. Use case
So you,
LightWave Server. Go ahead.
You mentioned like using the security already built in, but obviously REST has its own security standards like SAML tokens and stuff. Is that available in LightWave?
Yes, it under the user exits, we're managing to you can now have and manage your own tokens
Cool.
with whatever token management scheme you're using. And I'll talk that in a future in a few minutes. Let me just go through this slide and I'll talk about how user exits will affect that token management thing.
Thank you.
This bank had an old Tuxedo application talking to IBM and NonStop, and the architects of the bank are pushing to move to REST, make everything nice and shiny. And they approached NuWave trying to implement a REST-based service to their existing code. They didn't want to do anything on NonStop. The NonStop is great, it's working. So they just want to do whatever the architecture guys are asking them by installing LightWave Server. So before they had a client, a mediation interface talking to Tuxedo, and that one talked to an IBM mainframe and to the NonStop cluster. And the after slide shows now all of the clients on the left side using REST, the corporate standard REST JSON, and talking to their own interfaces within the IBM and the NonStop. And this is nice because even the HP guys said, hey, we're using this, we can export new services under REST. So they're providing new services to their underlying company to make them available for other clients within the company. A large manufacturer is using NonStop for manufacturing. They required SOAP. They want to move to REST, but they were also an existing SOAP customer. So one of the features that we're finishing up and releasing now this year is the SOAP AM integration to LightWave Server. So that gives them a flexibility to migrate all the SOAP services that they're using into LightWave and start migrating them to a REST equivalent service at their leisure, which is what they're going to do within the next years. A new product. I'm going to talk about the product roadmap. S3 Utils. Some customers were looking at that, and we decided to create this utility platform that enables the easy integration within the COM model of Guardian, batch COM, all the COM models. We have a S3 Util COM that will let you transfer data between Amazon S3 buckets and the NonStop. So you can schedule transfers in NetBatch and move your files, your Guardian files, whatever files on the NonStop to S3 Utils. So you can export near real-time OLTP data easily. What else? The roadmap. So talking about the roadmap, we have the SOAP AM compatibility, so it's winding down, being used in production. LightWave user exits are being worked on. So we're going to provide 2 user exits. One is in the header processing to do all this token management. You can do JSON object scripting and encryption, and a couple of other guys. So our previous example of the guys using Nordea, they're going to be able to hook directly here to go to the OSS to the Kerberos token. And the second user exit sits on the payload, which we're going to provide a facility for running a process within the payload processing routine. The S3 Utils has been released, and we're working on ISO Hub, a way for implementing ISO 222 quickly to the NonStop. And I'm going to give it back to you, Phil.
Okay.
If anybody has any questions.
I guess the question is that since this is a GUI interface, the objects, they run on OSS and Guardian at the same time, or
No. Nothing runs on OSS. The GUI is being presented by a Guardian process. And just a note, the GUIs don't have to be enabled in a production instance. We have customers that don't like any HTTP port 80 opens in production, so you don't need the GUI for production running. The GUIs are only for development.
Okay.
And
Yeah, so-
and we don't use OSS for anything. No Java, no OSS, no.
Well, yeah. So having said that, though, if you want to use LightWave Server to get to OSS server application, that's doable also.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
The
So-
inter-process communication between OSS and Guardian is there, and it's used.
Right. So, okay.
Gotcha.
Thanks, guys. Let me share my screen.
I think I stopped my sharing. I don't know. Do you have control back?
I have.
Okay.
Let me know. Okay. So I know that we cover a lot of information in this. I hope that we highlight as far as why we're so excited about LightWave, because we really truly think it's a lot of nice features. There are different products out there, but LightWave Client, LightWave Server offer certain benefits, ease of use, performance that is really better than anything else out there. And we want to invite you to talk to us and let us show you how to integrate your applications. In fact, we have users here, so I'm sure that I'd love to hear from some of you what you think. So, so please chime in if any one of you would like to share your view of the LightWave Server, LightWave Client. Please hop on and chime in. Next. Now, I was very happy to see so many of my friends and as well as new folks coming on this call. But then I realized maybe actual reason coming on because you guys want to win this Amazon Echo. So please tell me that's not the reason why you come to see me. I hope that you come see me because of the reason. But anyway, so I have been informed. I have been informed by by
actually, there are more people joining.
Yeah.
So I said, oh,
Phil.
Yeah. I'm
Phil,
surprised.
you're popular. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Let me make sure you win this. Good answer.
Tell me
So
he's gonna go
anyway-
to Suntug for that.
So anyway, so I've been asked to post two questions, and if you guys can identify in the answers and put in the chat, and you get a chance to win this. I hope you've been paying attention, not just log on and just walk away. So these are two questions. So let me just go through that. LightWave Server, this is really practical scenario I'm trying to put here, is that so you have an application and the REST client developer on the other side say, hey, something's not working right. We think the problem is on your end. So what do you, if you're using LightWave Server, what can you use to try to prove that or disprove that? So that's question number one. Question number two is, you can use LightWave Client to consume a remote RESTful API. What questions, what information, what would you ask the RESTful API web service provider to give you so that you can use it with LightWave Client? So that's the questions. I hope the questions make sense. I hope you guys get an answer. So
Sorry, I was gonna mute. Yeah, no, the first question, yeah, so the second, let me ask you the second question first. So you have to ask for them to have the Swagger. If they can give you a Swagger, or they can give you an example of the transaction. There's also a feature in LightWave Client, for example, that you can use an example as to create create an API by an example of a message.
Right.
But yeah, the good thing would be to ask for a Swagger file. That's the easiest thing. Everybody has that.
yeah.
And
So,
yeah. And the first one,
Gus, I forgot to mention that you cannot win. You are inside person. So you're
oh,
not qualified.
I
You're
thought
not
it was
qualified.
somebody else.
Answer this
Sorry.
question.
Thanks for
I
giving
thought
us
they
the
were
answer.
answered for us. Okay, it's between you guys. Okay, sorry.
Jeez,
Then go ahead.
Gus.
Go ahead.
I tried to stop him.
But
Sorry, I thought they were doing
we do have two. We have a good dilemma. We have two ladies who answer. One answered the first one, the other second one. So that's great. So we need to split the Amazon Echo to both Barbara and Susan. So how are we going to do that? I'm going to suggest that the Gus should pay for a second one since he interrupted in, so we can send one to Susan, send one to
Hey,
Bob.
I'm seeing
Yeah.
Abdel Mubashir there.
I'm actually good. I have enough Echo shows in my house, but thank you very much.
Like, good show, Susan. So anyway, so yeah.
The presenter is my old friend, so I deserve gift.
But anyway, so it is really true. So the first one, yeah. So diagnostic lock is really the answer here, and here is we need the Swagger information, right? So that basically is, and yeah. So anyway, so it really that pretty much wrapped it up, and I hope that it's been informative, and I hope that if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. It's great seeing all of you, and wait for our next one. We have probably more than one echo, just in case we have more than one good answers. But anyway, thank you all very much. And please feel free to write me your questions and give me your feedback and tell us how we can make this better. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Phil,
Sounds
really
good.
quick.
Thank you.
So the winner is Barbara, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect.
Actually,
Barbara,
the winners are Barbara and Susan, but
Yeah.
Susan is gracious enough saying that she has enough, so we don't have to chop it in half, so just give it to Barbara. So
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna put my email in the chat, and then if Barbara, you can email me your information so I can.
yeah, we have that. We have Barbara's information. We'll send it to you because we have
Okay.
from registration information.
Oh, perfect. All right, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, everyone.
I'll take a consolation prize of 1 year free maintenance.
I'm sorry.
Nice.
I'm sorry. Wait. I'm sorry. I don't understand that. Can you say that in Chinese? Where's Serena? Serena, help me. Serena, help me in Chinese. 我不懂呢。
Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you.